Shalom, family. I just want to warn you. I think it's possible that we may be losing power. Our transformer has been buzzing outside several times today. So far, nothing, but if I get cut off, you'll know why. I hope we can get through this entire live stream. So, there is a story that came out. Europe is not doing as well as you think, you know? And to be honest with you, when you go back and look at the history, a lot of Europe was poor, especially during the time they came over here. They were poor over there. They weren't living large. And a lot of the people that sailed away from there, even including coming here to America, these were the poor criminal class. These were not the higher echelon people at all. These are people they were trying to dump off and get rid of. They didn't want them. But if you listen to them speak, they come from, they'll try to make you believe they come from all this wealth and all this stuff. So, the bottom line is we shall see at the end how this is going to turn out. They could be reverting back to the way they actually were initially, and it was poor. Europe don't have any resources, and before they hijacked Africa, what did they really have? They didn't have anything. And we all know this. We know their history. They don't come from greatness. They really don't. So let's get into this. I'm going to share my screen. Let me share it here. Now, let's talk a bit before I really get into this. If you can see my screen, please give me a one. Give me a one. Yeah, look, y'all, I've been to Paris. It was a long time ago. Paris, and I know it's still like that because I've seen a few stories online about people that went to visit and said they were disappointed. Paris is filthy, y'all. It is nasty. It's trash everywhere. If I had to describe the smell when you go into Paris, it smells like a combination of piss and garbage. And I am not exaggerating, y'all. It smells horrible in Paris. It stinks. Yes, I actually think it's worse than New York City. And New York City does stink. But no, Paris, I really feel is a lot worse. When you go on the outer skirts away from where the Eiffel Tower is, it's graffiti everywhere. You think you see a lot of graffiti in New York? The graffiti is everywhere on buildings, on sides of the road. It's everywhere when you go into Paris. And some of the buildings that's standing around, I you couldn't pay me to live in them damn apartment buildings. Those apartments look awful. They look terrible. And every now and then you'll get the white supremacist boasting, and he'll say things like, oh, well, everybody's trying to live in Europe. Oh, everybody's trying to be in Europe. Not really. The only reason why people flock to Europe, they flock for a number of reasons. Number one, a lot of the people that flock into Europe is because these folks in the Western nations have ruined their countries. So, because you ruined their countries, they're going to come and invade on your country now. Go look at what some of these Arabs and stuff that left out of their homelands and went into these European nations because you ruined their home. You ruined their land. So now they're going to come and invade yours. Same with the Africans. Y'all have raped out Africa of its resources and mistreated the people. So yeah, they're going to come and invade in your land now. And number two, you've lied to the entire world. It's just like when America tells people, oh, the streets are paved in gold. No, they're not. No, they're not. And then when they come over here, they get met with racism. And it's not what they thought it would be. See, they sell a fairy tale to the world about Western nations. They really do. And then a lot of people will come over and it's nothing like what they were told at all. Nothing like that. So people are then stuck living here, and after a while they don't even want to be here. That's why it's not unusual for you to hear about many of these foreigners coming. They'll make some money and then they will pack up and go right back to their countries. They don't want to be here. Maybe to make money, and then they just skip on out of here. And America has really pampered a lot of these immigrants, especially over us. And they don't realize immigrants, if you got bombed tomorrow, these immigrants are going to hop the plane and leave. They're not going to stay and help you fight. They don't have no stake in America like that. They're going to just get on out of here. They're not going to help you do nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised. Yeah, they move here because of a fantasy. Just remember that. Just remember that. I was actually over there. Okay, I'm not telling you something from a story. I'm not telling you something from what I heard. No, I was actually on foreign soil. My 2 feet was on foreign soil. And I saw the conditions. When you go into Italy, I've been to Italy. Italy got slums. They got slums. Paris does too. They got slums. That's why when these people try to laugh about the inner city, let me tell y'all something. The inner city in America looks like paradise compared to the slums that you see over in Italy and Paris and places like that. And, speaking of Ukraine, Ukraine is the poorest European nation over there. It is number one in being the poorest. But the people will come here and stick their nose up and act like they're better than somebody. And they're not. They're not. Or they'll talk about all that civilized stuff. If they were so civilized, then they wouldn't be listed as the poorest nation in Europe. Okay? So much for being civilized. Mm-hmm. So it's not what you think. It's not what you think at all, y'all. It is not what you think. And the people over there, they're something else. Oh, yeah. You know what they do in Paris? When the city gets overran, they get overran by rats, even to this very day, y'all. They get overran by rats. You know what they do? They put the rats on restaurant menus and start serving the rats to the public to get rid of them. They start eating them. That's their solution to getting rid of the rats. So if you hear about them overran, that means the restaurants are going to start capturing the rats and putting the rats on their menu. And yes, they do eat them. Yes, they do. I have been to Belgium. I have been to Austria. lived in Germany for a while, been to Paris, been to Switzerland. I've been to those places. And let me tell you, it's not what you think. Like I said, they sell you a fantasy. They sell you a fantasy. If they show the slums to foreigners before they come, they probably wouldn't come. They know they can't do that. So they sell, oh, well, they come to Europe. Yeah, because you done propped it up and lied about it. Of course they're gonna come. They believe the hype, they believe the lie. That's why when I hear them say, oh, well, y'all come to Europe, you don't go to Africa, you come to Europe. Yeah, but look at what you tell the world about the West. You're not being 100% honest. And that is the truth. So yeah, Paris stinks. It has a foul odor, y'all. And when you go there, they got all these little restaurants where you can sit indoors and outdoors, like you see in this picture. And just the odor alone, I could never sit outside and eat in Paris. The stench alone would probably turn my stomach if I was eating outside and smelling the stench. Hmm. So let's get into this story because, Europe right now, their biggest population are the elderly. They have a big elderly population and they actually got a small population that's young. Europe probably have some of the oldest people across their nations. And America's really not that far behind because, not among everybody, but among them folks, their biggest population are elderly people. Now, here's the difference: the elderly people in America are better off. They are way more better off than the elders in Europe. The ones in Europe don't have quite as much money as the elderly do here in America. And Europe has been suffering from a low birth rate since the 80s. Okay, they were suffering from a low birth rate as far back as the 80s. And this is 2023, so it's been going on for quite some time, y'all. I would say well over 40 years they've been struggling with a low birth rate. All right, so let's get into the story. So, Europeans are becoming poorer. Yes, we're all worse off. So, not only the old, but the young are also worse off, right? So, then came, the pandemic and then the Russia Ukraine war, which is going on. So Europeans are facing an economic reality, one they haven't experienced in decades. They are becoming poorer. Life on the continent, long envied by outsiders because they have hyped it up. They have hyped it up and they have not been 100% honest about what it's really like there. Is rapidly losing its shine as Europeans see their purchasing power melt away. The French are eating less and drinking less red wine. The Spaniards are um, they are now backing off on using as much olive oil. They used a lot of olive oil in Spain, and they're even backing off from that. The Finns are being urged to use saunas on windy days and when energy is less expensive. Across Germany, meat and milk consumption has fell to its lowest level in 3 decades. And the once booming market for organic food has tanked. Italy Economic Development Minister Adolfo Urso convened a crisis meeting in May over the prices of pasta, so which was a big staple for the country. You know, pasta is big over in Europe, and that's falling. Even that's falling in the country. People are not purchasing that as much as they used to. With consumption spending in free fall, Europe tapped into recession at the start of the year, reinforcing a sense of relative economic, political, and military decline that kicked in at the start of the century. So I want to show you, let me make this big. See if I can make this bigger on the screen. All right. All right. I'm going to stop sharing just for a brief moment. Okay. Let's see if I can I get that on the screen? Okay. Okay. It seems like it's not opening. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it, y'all. Let me go back to sharing my screen. All right. Okay, back. Here we go. All right. I'm not going to worry about it. It's just a picture. It seems to be corrupt, but that's okay. That's not going to stop me. Okay. So, Europeans' current predicament has been a long time in the making, and an aging population with a reference for free time, job security over earnings, ushering in years of lackluster economic and productivity growth. And then came the one two punch of the pandemic and the war that's going on between Russia and Ukraine by upending global supply chains and sending the prices of energy and food rocketing. The crisis aggravated ailments that festering. They said this economic problem has been festering for many decades. The government responses only compounded the problem to preserve jobs. They steered their subsidiaries, primarily employers, leaving consumers without a cash cushion. Americans, by contrast, what they did was they really benefited over here when the Europeans were suffering. And that's what's going on now. Actually, if you live in America, you're way better off than Europeans. You are. You are. So, They're saying the sluggish recovery in China and critical market for Europe is undermining the growth pillar. High energy costs and rampant inflation at a level not seen since the 1970s are dulling manufacturer price advantage in international markets and smashing the continent's once uh, was a very good labor relations at one time that they had, and they don't have that anymore. So the resilience that Europe once had, they don't have anymore. They don't have it anymore. As a global trade cools, Europe's heavy reliance on exports, which account for about 50% of Eurozone GDP versus 10% for the US, is becoming a weakness. Private consumption has declined about 1% in the 20 nation Eurozone since the end of 2019 after adjusting for inflation, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Paris is based club of primarily a lot of wealthy countries in the US, where households enjoy a strong labor market and rising incomes. It has increased nearly 9%. European Union now accounts for about 18% of all global consumption spending, compared to 28% for America. 15 years ago, the EU and the US each represented about a quarter of that total amount. So, wow. So, I want to tell y'all the poorest 10 nations in Europe. The poorest 10 nations in Europe. Like I said, it's amazing how these folks are poor, but they'll come over here and think they're better than us, don't they? Okay, so starting at number 10, as you can see right here, is Russia. Russia is the 10th poorest country in Europe. Mhm. When they were communists, they actually collapsed. Russia collapsed as a nation. Bulgaria is the ninth poorest nation in Europe. But you know what? I saw something like this probably like 20 years ago. I saw something similar saying that Bulgaria was poor. Montenegro is also a poor nation over there. Mm. They sure make it look good. All the mountains and ships and boats in the water. And wow. Now, Serbia, I'm not surprised about. Serbia is the seventh poorest European nation. Population of 8.6 million. That's small. That's relatively small. That's small. All right. And Belarus, right over there by Russia. So it's a lot. And Bosnia Herzegovina, number 5. North Macedonia, number 4. Albania is number 3. Moldova, number 2. And guess who is the number 1 in the world? Ukraine, with their Nazis and mistreating the Africans and believing they're better and civilized. They were heavily using the word civilized all over TV when that war broke out. But they are literally, y'all, the poorest nation in all of Europe. Go figure, right? Mhm. It's amazing. So, all of the professions over there, like it like a nurse, let's say, for example, over in Europe, they don't even make half as much as the nurses here in America. That's why when if you remember when the pandemic was going on, they were calling for nurses, and eventually they even were calling for the ones that didn't even live here out of desperation. So let's go down a little further. They're given all these examples. Here's another screenshot. So you can see, I can show you this one. I can show you this one. All right. So if you look at consumption spending, you can see right here, it's a lot higher in the US, and you can see spending is declining in Europe. People are spending less because they don't have the money. They don't have the money. And their elderly population, they're really a poor population of people. Where you hear about our elderly, they got money saved and 401ks from their jobs and stock options and everything, so they're a lot better off. But over in Europe, the consumer spending, they don't, each and every year, they're spending less and less. So it's a world of difference between Europe and America right now. There's a big difference. Now, not only is Europeans, not only are they struggling financially, and they're, according to this, is all age groups from the young to the poor. They're saying that Europe is now less attractive for businesses. At one point in time, they had some, corporate giants that they don't have anymore. You got Procter and Gamble here in the US, and they do quite well. You got Unilever, and Unilever actually get more consumers here in the US than they do in Europe, and so does Procter and Gamble. Their biggest sales are in North America, not Europe. So in the last 15 years, the Eurozone only grew 6%. That's it. In comparison to the US, 82%. That has left the average EU country poorer per head than every US state except for Idaho and Mississippi, according to a report that came out this month. So, and I'm sure that gap is going to get wider and wider as we move along. So, y'all, if you hear all this hype, because, I be hearing these white supremacists online boasting about everybody is going to Europe and they don't go to African countries. And Europe is not doing well, y'all. It's not doing well. It has not done well for quite some time. Okay. And maybe they didn't get the memo. They might not have gotten a memo on that. They're not doing well at all. Well, they pay a lot less. That's why if you hear about people migrating there, if you go look at the stories from the immigrants, that's their number one complaint about being in Europe. They said the pay is terrible for these jobs. And, I had met an immigrant that was from Italy, and they moved here to America, and they told me Italy want to work you to death and give you very low pay But I think that's just built into their DNA because they do that same thing over here with the immigrants that come south of the border. They want to work them out in this baking hot sun picking stuff and then throw pennies on the dollar at them. That's just something I guess just built into the DNA for them to be that way. And many of the immigrants will start out in places like Italy and Greece, but eventually they leave out of there because the money is so bad. And a lot of them, if they stay over there, they like to go to places like the UK. So, they'll flock over to the UK and places like that. But they said many of those countries, it's really not good to be in. It does. Ren's G. I'm telling you, I was in that city even years ago, and I know nothing has changed because I've seen a couple of TikTok videos of people visiting Paris and they talk about the bad stench. It is horrible. I'm just telling y'all, it will make you nauseated smelling Paris. It would make you nauseating. Your stomach would definitely be turning. Mhm. Mhm. And and there's always people booking vacations, even honeymoons to go over to Paris cuz they have romanticized about it so much that people want to go, and then when they get over there and see the slums all around it's shocking to them. Yeah, it's pretty much all crap. Like yes, it really is. In my opinion, I think the food, they always try to criticize soul food, the food that we eat. But to be honest with you, I think with all those heavy creams and sauces and gravies and everything they put on food in France, I think that food is far worse than anything that we prepare in our community. I'm sorry. I've been there, seen it. It was okay, but I think today, if I was there and smelled that same stench, I would never I wouldn't be interested in going in their restaurants. I would not be interested at all. Hmm. Yeah, well, I didn't see the rats, to be honest with you. I'm not saying they weren't there, but I know Paris is always going through some issue with trash pickup too. And the longer you leave trash out, yes, you're going to attract rats and all kinds of varmint. And they had a trash strike. I believe if you go back and look at 2022 in Paris, they had a trash strike. Let me see if I can find one of those pictures. See if I can find it. It gets real filthy. Yeah, I got to show you these pictures. Let me see here. Can I show this one? Let me see if I can show this one to you. Let's see. I get this over here? Yeah, I can. This is what it looks like when they have their trash strike, and you can see in these pictures, it gets disgusting in Paris. And they'll just keep piling it and piling it and piling it on the streets. And sometimes it could be out there for several weeks before anyone decides to come by there and pick up the trash. And the stench is awful. It's awful. 2 weeks, even over a week. When you start going past a week with no trash pickup, yeah, you're going to attract all kinds of things. Yeah, it gets pretty disgusting. It does. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's why y'all don't believe the hype when they try to prop up Europe and America. Don't believe the hype for real. I was there. Don't believe it. Because they always make it seem like they're living large and nobody else is in the world. And that's the biggest lie they could sit around and tell. But Europe is going through a lot. They are. And they are being slam dunk when it comes down to energy. The energy is getting so outrageous over there. And we heard about some of it when the war broke out, how, they were fighting over energy and Russia cut the power off and everything. But yeah, Brother Sly, it really does smell like rotting corpse when you go over there. Sometimes I wish I could warn some of our people before they go over there. It's not what you think. Yeah. Yeah, they were very open because I saw someone put homosexuality. Yes, they were very open with that even when I was there. I saw quite a bit of it. When you would go out, you would see quite a bit of couples that you would call LGBTQ even back then. There were a lot of couples walking around. You saw the gays and lesbians walking around in Europe even back in the 80s. It was pretty big even then, and they were a lot open about it, where back in the 80s we knew what was going on, but they weren't quite as open about it as they are today. Yeah, I mean, they just let it all hang out today. Mhm. Back when I was over there, who was a big cross dresser was Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson used to dress up as a woman and he would be singing back then. I mean, he still looked like a freak of nature, but it looked like he toned some of that down from back when he first came out. Thank you, Quantum Solace, for the super chat. Their calamity has already begun. Yes. Yes. But y'all go out there and look at some of the stuff coming out of Europe. It's really bad. And you got to look at what's really going on. You got the Canadian fires that they can't seem to put out, right? And then you see a big decline among the people when it comes down to income in Europe. And look who's getting attacked the most is the Western nations. They're going through a lot. We got an air quality warning this morning when I woke up. I think we are at an orange. And I saw what DC looked like. DC looks worse than where I am. Well, some people are like, well, how can that be? Because the air is coming down in plumes. It's not like one big old cloud coming down. It is some lighter spots in the cloud, and then there are some smoke clouds that are heavy. So it's not coming down as one continuous heavy plume of smoke. It's not coming down like that. So you may have some breaks in some of the smoke where it looks smokier in some areas and not others. But yeah, and in fact, I saw the alert went all the way down to Florida when I woke up this morning because I check, especially if I have to go out in it, I want to know what the air quality's like. What I'm really looking forward to, y'all, is this BRICS dollar that they're anticipating coming out. Because remember, BRICS said their money will be out this summer. And I don't know how true it is, but I'm hearing a lot of rumors that their currency is coming out in August. And I know they're trying to come together to meet in August. And I think that's why they're going to be meeting because that currency is going to be ready to be announced to the world. So that's the next big thing I'm looking at. I'm going to see what happens to the dollar once that's announced. Will it start plummeting or will they manipulate the market where it don't plummet that much? So I'm going to see what happens and I'm dying to see what it's going to look like. I really want to see what this BRICS currency look like. Oh, y'all seeing the smoke too? Yeah, I mean, look, they got 881 fires going on in Europe, y'all. That's a lot of fires. Now, they're talking, oh, we'll have it all out in September. There's no way. There's no humanly possible way they can have that amount of fires out by September. Oh yeah, they want to cripple America. If you read the stories on BRICS, they want to cripple America. Now, you remember when the Ukraine Russia war began, Putin made threats. He said whoever helps Ukraine, he was going to go after that nation. And I don't think that doesn't mean he's going to drop bombs on America, but he may attack America in other ways. What is the biggest way outside of a war to get America? Is to go after the money, right? That is the next big thing. And that's what they're going to, yeah, they're going to turn up on America. You watch. Especially when that currency come out and they're talking about all these nations are trying to join them in getting rid of the dollar. America can't go after all of these nations. And that's the bottom line. They can't. And we know historically, once a country fall, they don't come back. Egypt didn't come back. Rome didn't come back. Greece, they didn't come back. Persia, it didn't come back. Once these nations fall, they don't come back. But we keep hearing this nonsense out of America about some reset, and then they're going to resume and being in charge. And that is not written anywhere in prophecy. So, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe they're going to be able to resume nothing because history shows us that they will not be able to resume anything. Yeah, do you see the heat waves going on over there in Europe? Oh man, they are baking over there. And here I am sitting and complaining about the temperatures here. It is roasting. They're in triple digits there. And wasn't it Arizona out in the desert? I think they clocked the highest temperature 128 degrees or it's some crazy amount on that temperature. I think 128. Yeah. Yeah. In Dallas, it was 10. Yeah, because you know what? Texas has been really getting it. I think it was one day last week. I forgot what part of Texas, but they hit 110 degrees. And I know for Texas, that's really not unusual, but it seems to me like the hot weather is getting longer and longer. It's going so many days, where I remember we would get a few breaks in between. Now it's like a continuous burning that we're getting. Yes. Triple digits in Utah? Wow. Yeah, Yusef Walker, when you get over there, that's one thing I learned when we lived over there. Driving to another country in Europe is like driving from your state to another state here in America because everything's all connected. So you can drive from, Germany into Italy, and you can go from there. You can go to Switzerland. It's like driving between states when you get over there. Las Vegas, 113. Yeah, well, when you start getting around those desert areas, it's going to be hot. The Bay Area is heating up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, it is. Yeah, it's roasting. It's definitely roasting. The Delta in Mississippi is 111 degrees. Wow. Wow. Well, they're saying that we're going to have a above average fall this year. I think we're in an El Nino year, and they're claiming that this coming fall is going to be above normal. Sacramento, 109. Wow. We were, yeah, I drove the Autobahn before. Yeah, it's crazy. But it's not just the Autobahn. When you're in Germany, there's a lot of roads that have no speed limit. So, yeah, we always hear about the Autobahn, but within Germany, there used to be other roadways that we would travel, and it would be no speed limit. You could go as fast as you want. The only thing that freaked me out, y'all, when you get over in Germany, it is not unusual for you to see things running across the highway at top speed. I'm talking about deers, and they had where I was, they had elk, deers, and these things would come running out of the woods. And the whole time you're driving down the road, you're seeing them run across the highway, and that scared me. I was not used to that. But that is a common thing that occurs in Germany. And they tell you when you get on the road, no matter what you see in front of you, go at the same rate of speed. Don't slam on your brakes, don't slow down, just go the same rate of speed. You got a better chance of getting down the road, even if there's all these big animals running back and forth across the road. And so that's what I did. And luckily, I did not run into, but it scared me. I'm not used to seeing 8, 9 animals running across the road all at the same time. And that is what you see when you're on the roads in Germany, because they got woods on both sides of the roads, and those animals run out of the woods to cross the highway. And if you're not used to seeing that, it is shocking. It scared me the first time I saw it. Yeah, yeah. Um, and then I remember another time we were going down to Georgia, and a whole herd came onto the road of deers. It was a bunch of them that came onto the roadway and started running, and it's like, oh my good, yeah, it's shocking. But I've seen more of it in Germany than I ever did here in the United States. So you're on this road with no speed limits with these animals that probably weigh about close to 1,000 pounds, not the deers, but some of those elk. The elks were big. Man, them elks were big, and they're running at top speed across the road. So yeah, you see all of that. And in the town that I was in, the only thing that got damaged during World War II was a church steeple that was in town. The rest of the town did not suffer from any bombing. That was the only bombing the town endured. I was in Ansbach. So the whole time World War II was going on, they only had a church steeple that got hit, and that was it. Nothing else in the town got hit. Yeah, yeah. I saw a lot of they had a lot of elk around where I was. And yeah, they are some big beasts, man. Those are some big, big beasts when you see them in person. Deers and wild hogs. Okay, yeah. Well, here in with my state in New Jersey, we see deer all the time. Probably as many deers as there are people here, but we also got a lot of bears. So depending on the part of New Jersey you're in, you'll see a lot of bears too. Now, where I am, I don't see quite as many bears, but if I go a few towns over, I'll see bears and I'll see foxes. Those small red foxes, we got those in New Jersey. I've seen a few of those. I've seen foxes, I've seen bears. Um, Chemung Township, they got rattlesnakes all over there in New Jersey. And they believe they got there. Somebody probably had them as a pet and just let them go. And now they're all over that township. And I remember they put a new development there, and people were even afraid to let their kids go out and play. It was so many rattlesnakes over there. Yeah, we had cougars. Every now and then somebody will post on YouTube a sighting of a cougar that they see in New Jersey. But see, the cougars are not natural. They actually brought them in. They brought the cougars in, I believe, back in the 90s to control the deers. Oh yeah, those moose are ginormous. Some of them, especially with them big giant horns they got. Oh yeah, them things can get big, real big. Yeah, we got coyotes in New Jersey too. Every now and then you'll hear about a child getting attacked, or they'll attack a cat or dog. Yeah, I mean, they don't really go after the adults so much, but children, I've heard a few children about a few children getting attacked. But coyotes, I believe coyotes are everywhere. I really do. I think they're everywhere. Yeah, I believe that too, Timber Dan. I believe coyotes are in every state. You may not have come across them, but I really believe they're all over the land. Yeah, alligators. Yeah, I heard about that too, Jean. The alligators walk in the streets of Florida. Yeah, well, I did a story a few weeks ago of one that was in the drain pipe down there in Florida, and people were going in the drain pipe to do some work, and there was a gator in there. Well, I believe there were more natural animals to this land, before it was colonized. I believe there were a lot of different animals in this land that we never got to see or never knew about. Yeah, if there's a gator that big, it's probably old. They do live a long time. Those gators, they can live a long time. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, it's really best if you can stay in and or you're on a job with AC, you'll be okay. Just keep yourself hydrated in this kind of weather. You really do. You got to stay hydrated. That's really important. When you get in your car, if it's possible for you to take some ice water or some nice cool water with you, bottled water, take it with you. This is the most important time to stay hydrated, and your children too. Hmm. I remember one night I was on my porch. This was, I think it was last summer. I was on my porch and there is a street light right out there in front of my house. And when I went and stood on the porch, there was a bat. And you know how moths, they're all attracted to the light. There was a bat eating the moths. He was flying back and forth through the light and just grabbing a whole bunch of them at once. I was like, wow, he really ate all of them, because the next time I looked, there was no moths fluttering around the light anymore. He really ate all of them. Hmm. Yeah, so y'all just be careful out here, and all I can say is there's not much we can do as far as the weather is concerned. You know, we can only do our best. I've seen bats have fun around street light. Yeah, they do. And I never, that was the first time I ever saw one just eating up all the moths. I was like, wow. And he just kept coming and flying through, and you could see him flying through. And every time he flew through the light, you saw less moths. So he was eating them. He had a buffet that night because they sure were out there under that light, a bunch of them. Mhm. Yeah. All right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I thank each and every one of you for coming, and I am going to do live streams more often. I know I have slacked off for a while, and maybe if not this coming Sunday, next Sunday I'll do another current event, because there's certainly a lot of things to talk about, y'all. Mhm. So I'll try to do live streams more often. So everybody, please enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are, and until we come together again, shalom family. Shalom to each and every one of you. By the way, I want to always thank the people that have made donations. I just want to say thank you, because some of you have been real consistent, and some, even if you did it one time, I deeply appreciate it. I really do. Shalom, family.